Hello again everyone and welcome back to Skyblock News. I'm your host Derailious and today we're going to be going over Skyblock Update 0.23.4 currently on the Alpha Network. There is a lot of really good improvements here for the early game players and I'm very excited to go over them. Before we begin though, I just want to say please make sure to like and subscribe down below. We are very close to 80k and it would mean the world to me. Also make sure to use code RAIL on the Hypixel store, RAIL spelled just like my name, and without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we have Skyblock 0.23.4. This release will not include the Dungeon Breaker pickaxe. They want to keep that back a little bit longer, but that's just fine because it includes a bunch of changes. First of all, it includes everything from the previous alpha test related to the Primordial Broodfather. So you're going to be getting your Spider Slayer RNG meter. We're going to be getting Sting and Scorpion Foil being properly in their setups. Should be more damage on those items as well. Mosquito Bow should have its recipe changed. A few other changes as well, like Shriveled Wasp getting its weight doubled. But that's not really what I want to talk about here. First of all, Chapters has been rewritten into the game. They want to be capable of adding chapters for other islands in the near future. There is a /chapters command now built into the game. You could do /chapters Moonglade to open Hina's chapters. Island chapters can now be accessed through the quest menu, and there have been minor improvements to the chapters menu and item descriptions. There is also a bunch of Abiphone improvements. They have made several changes to Abiphones in preparation of a new Abiphone keynote event. Stay tuned for that event in the near future. Abiphones & Co. This is a new building in the hub that will let early game players purchase an Abiphone Basic, a new budget model of Abiphone with 6 contact slots. Alda, the NPC who works there, will teach you how to add NPC contacts. So here we are at the new Abiphones & Co. building. You're going to have to speak to Alda here, and she'll be like, "Hello, welcome to Abiphones & Co. Derailious. Are you here to buy an Abiphone?" Absolutely. What's an Abiphone? Have you ever needed to talk or buy something from an NPC, but they're on a different island, and getting them to take ages, even if you had a travel scroll? That's where Abiphone comes in. Simply add an NPC as a contact, and you can call them anytime, anywhere. Sounds amazing, I guess. And there you go. You get a basic Abiphone for 100k coins. So this is actually really good. This brings Abiphones way earlier in the game's progression. This is something that I've asked about for a while, and I've wanted to happen for a very long time, because it always felt kind of silly to me that some of the Abiphones were just far into the progression in the Crimson Isle. And now you're going to be able to get one as a relatively new player. You can add quite a few of the contacts there early on. It should make things like, for example, getting the Slayer one added, as well as a few other ones that are pretty trivial to get. Things should just be better. Another great thing you can do now is if you are just hanging out and you want to call a contact, you can do /call Maddox, or whoever else for that matter, and you can call them. You don't actually have to be holding the Abiphone. I imagine it's just when you have an Abiphone in your inventory. Like I imagine if I moved them all. Yeah, it needs to be in your inventory to use the command. So that's what you need to do. Aside from /call, which we already went over in game, there are a few other Abiphone changes that I want to go over here. Notably, they've adjusted the various Abiphone shop menus to condense the various available models into submenus, so it hopefully is less confusing. They adjusted the build of Udel's Abiphone shop in the Crimson Isle. They adjusted the names of several Abiphone models for clarity. They've rescaled the features and pricing of existing Abiphone models, so we'll check that out in a moment. They've removed the ability to trade in Abiphones as a result of Abiphone prices having been lowered. They removed the upcharges and discounts in Abiphone prices from Nuvian and Udel, respectively. So that's pretty notable. Alright, so here we are at the Mage Faction shop, which looks pretty nice. Here's Udel, as you can see. And there's the Abiphone 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, Flip, and the Flip Plus coming soon. And as you can see, the price is way lower. So the 10, if I can get there, is 490k coins. The 11 is 490k as well. The 12 is 980,000. The 13 is 4.9 million. The 14 is 24.5 million. And then the next one up is 49 mil in total. I think I have like a 2% discount or whatever in general on all shops, but I imagine the actual numbers would be like 25 mil and then 50 mil. This is not bad. This is about half the price. I imagine the Flip Plus will be a little bit more expensive, so keep that in mind. Something they seem to be adding with the plus variants of the Abiphone Flip is a thing called Speed Dial. And basically how this works is that if you open up your Abiphone, for example, and you collect, I don't know, maybe Maddox's contact, you go to right-click on him, and you can set him as your speed dial. So if you left-click with the Abiphone, it instantly calls him. That's it. Simple as that. Alright, continuing on, we have some stat menu improvements, and I'll go in game for this one. The stats menu itself has also gotten a full rework along with this update. Now there are a bunch more breakdowns of different stats. So there's combat stats as the first one, which shows you pretty much all of the combat stats in the game. There is also mining stats, there is farming stats, foraging stats, fishing stats, miscellaneous stats, hunting stats, and wisdom stats. So now they are all broken down here, and I imagine if we got stats for other skills, they would be in this menu. This also applies to weapons and armor to a degree. As you can see, the visual colors are different now, dependent on what stat is there. So defense is obviously green, intel is that light blue color, vitality is that darker red, then we have wisdoms as that medium like cyan. Also, this goes for true defense is that white color. Fortunes haven't changed. I think Hunter Fortune, though, is different. That's a pink now. So it should be a lot more visually clear what stats you're getting and how you are getting them. They also adjusted various items and perks to use the new stat classification system. So Superior Dragon Armor only works on combat and miscellaneous stats. Blaze Pet works on combat, fishing, and miscellaneous stats on the Crimson Isle. Ender Dragon works on combat and miscellaneous stats. Mithril Golem works on combat stats on mining islands. Dragonhorn, combat stats, miscellaneous stats. Legion, combat and miscellaneous stats. Bobbin-Time, Fishin', and also Magic Find. And Mayor Jerry only buffs combat stats and miscellaneous stats, so keep that in mind now. Base stats on items are now colored based on which category they fall into. When you unlock a new stat in Skyblock, a chat message will be sent about it, explaining what it does. That is very, very cool for new players. I like this a lot. They simplify the item description for the stats menu button to make it less overwhelming, and True Defense now shows damage reduction percentage in the stat menu, similar to regular defense. I like that as well. There have also been a few changes to the Tailor Shop, which is beneficial if you're a Code Rail user. They added the command Warp Tailor, which teleports you to her shop, which is available by default. Shockingly, they'll make that default, but they won't make going to the Crystal Nucleus available by default. Curious. This warp, along with Warp Elizabeth, can be found in the Warp menu. A chat message now gets sent in hubs when Taylor releases a new seasonal bundle. You can now click on Fire Sale Dies in Vincent's menu to teleport to Elizabeth. The global sales of unlimited Fire Sale Dies are now shown in Vincent's menu. They modernized the item description of the Skyblock Gems button, and other minor text and coloring fixes have been made. There are also a new cosmetic type in this update, Axe Runes. This new type of rune leaves particles behind when throwing your axe. For now, there are only two available, Fading White and Fading Green. These new runes drop from Fig and Mangrove Tree gifts, respectively. Very, very cool. There's also a new Reclaim menu, which I actually am pretty excited about. Our aim is to add all future reclaims to this menu to reduce the amount of places in the game where items can be reclaimed. You can access this menu using the command /reclaim. Items with available reclaims will have a notice in their item description as well. In addition to this menu, these 6 items are no longer dungeonizable and can now be reclaimed. The Primordial, Axe of the Shredded, Reaper Scythe, Reaper Sword, Revenant Sword, Undead Sword. You will be able to reclaim the applied Master Stars and the dungeonization cost from the applicable items. Very, very cool. So here we are in game. We could do /reclaim, and we can see the recently added reclaims. So you can see all the Master Stars that you can get back from these items, as well as the dungeonized cost. Same deal. It's funny that they wrote Axe of the Shredded. It's a halberd, guys. Come on. You changed it to a halberd, and you still wrote Axe of the Shredded. Here's a bunch of miscellaneous changes that are actually somewhat notable. The big ones here are that they added a Claim All button to the Forge. They uncapped the amount of suspicious scrap you can get in the Glaciite Mineshaft, but keep in mind each one you get still halves the drop rate for the next one. Shards now list their hunting requirement, which is great. Dark Goggles, Shadow Goggles, and Wither Goggles now upgrade with Wither Essence instead of Undead Essence. They added 5 Mining Fortune to each piece of Glaciite armor. They adjusted the Junk Sinker to only function in the Backwater Bayou. They added Enchanted Charcoal and Matchsticks to the Nether Sack. They capped the Chomp bonus from the Kudra Mandible to minus 20% health. Enchanted Hoppers now use Budget Hoppers in their crafting recipe. Warp Forge now makes players face towards Fred the Foreman. They updated the names of various vanilla items in Skyblock so they match the names of their latest version counterparts, which is pretty cool. So Clownfish are now Tropical Fish. That's a pretty notable one. They simplified the Heart of the Mountain item description. They increased the rarity of enchanted golden carrots, baked potatoes, and blaze rods to rare from uncommon. I don't know why they did that. They also increased the rarity of hyper cleavers to legendary, which is crazy. I'm going to be honest, I think they updated the rarity of the wrong item. They should have gotten the giant cleaver, not the hyper cleaver. If Mayor Nancy is somehow in office, she has a special skin. Hold on, I gotta check that one out. Holy moly, they even gave Nancy a skin. She looks cute. They did a good job on this. I actually like this. They renamed the mini fish bowl to Aquarium Diorama to minimize confusion with the accessory line, which is funny. They renamed the Anomalous Desire Heart of the Mountain perk to Tunnel Vision. That one's cool. They renamed the Spooky Hook to Spooky Savant to minimize confusion with actual hooks. And they added an Easter egg to Odd XR's dialogue if you meet certain conditions. Very curious. And there's a ton of bug fixes, as you can see. Overall, the vast majority of changes here on the alpha are pretty incredible. Skyblock 23.4 looks to be a very solid update with a bunch of great additions to the early game, making the experience a whole lot better. I am also very excited for chapters to be added to other islands. Would love to hear what you guys think in the comments down below, and look to the future, fellas. I'll see you then.